And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. Except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance is this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings. Want to say Shalom Lach, Mash Paka. Want to say peace and blessings, family. Hope all is well with you guys. Hope and pray that you guys is having a great week. And if you can hear me clearly, type 1 in the chat. If you can hear me clearly, type 1 in the chat before we get started. All right. So if you could type 1, if you could hear me clearly in the chat, if my audio sounds okay, type 1. If my audio sounds bad or the volume need to come up, type 2. All right. So, all right, good. not going to be long. Just wanted to do a brief follow-up video to part one that I did on Whoopi, titled "The Jew a Separate Race." Right. So in part one, I really dealt a lot with really giving you clarity on whether or not if a Jew or if that's actually considered a race in the court system. That's where we have to go to start with the court system. And I share with you emphatically that being Jew or Jewish, it's not a race, right? And I share with you court documents from the Supreme Court making it clear that the Jewish community as we know them today are Caucasians, right? Are Caucasians. And made it clear in that court case that a Caucasian cannot sue a Caucasian. A white person cannot sue another white person, just like a black person cannot sue another black person. And I gave proof. Also, we learned in part one, and I encourage you guys, if you haven't seen part one, go to part one. I did it almost a week ago, but go to part one and I break down the word or the phrase anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism. And I also broke down the word Semitic. And I know for many of you guys, you probably were surprised when I share with you that that word Semitic or Semite is a subgroup of Afro-Asiatic, thus proving that we as Negroes, right, descendants, right, that come directly from Africa, right, of course, Israel, but we cannot be accused of or have any court case brought against us from a group or anyone that claimed to be Semitic. We can't be anti-Semitic because the word Semite is a subgroup of Afro-Asiatic. Fact. All right. So I encourage you guys, go watch part one and you'll get full clarity on that. But today I want to focus on a particular article. I really want to talk a little bit more briefly about the Whoopi Goldberg situation. And I'll make this clear. The only thing that Whoopi Goldberg can be, accused of being guilty of is being insensitive, right? And many of you guys have worked in corporate America that are watching this video, and you understand in corporate America, right, you have what is called sensitivity training. Also, some cases they may call it, some areas they may call it diversity training. And it teaches you how to be considerate, be considerate, to others that work around you, right? Showing you how to be sensitive to other ethnic groups, be sensitive to other genders, right? Religious beliefs and other things. So they really teach you to be sensitive. That's why it's called sensitivity training. And now in many cases, they may call it diversity training. But that's what it is to teach their employees how to be sensitive, be mindful of how you communicate certain things with among your coworkers, your peers. And so Whoopi Goldberg, her peers, works with her on The View. The other panelists, they work for a corporation. Even though The View, the owner is Barbara Walters, but she works for a corporation. So the only thing that Whoopi Goldberg can be charged with or being guilty of is insensitivity, right? So we've made it clear, we proved it, that the Jewish community as we know them, right, as with her comment that she made about the Holocaust not being a racial issue, but it was acts against humanity, which she was absolutely correct. Why? Again, going off the court system and giving you proof. right? According to the court system in this country, they classify the Jewish community as being part of the white community, part of the Caucasian race. So again, I want to make this clear. This video is definitely not about being insensitive for any one person that is a descendant of those that had to go through the Holocaust. So that this is not about disrespecting or, how can I put it? I'll just say disrespecting, and trying to belittle or minimize what happened over in Germany. But if you go back and you look at part 1, you'll understand the word German in Hebrew, or, the Hebrew word that is used is Ashkenaz, right? So we know that when we look at Germany, we know that Hitler was a Nazi, right? Had the Nazi regime. And we also know that we had the Zionists. In the coin that I shared in part 1, you saw the swastika on one side, you saw the Zionist coin on the other side, and you also saw the word Palestine on there. So dealing with 3 different groups of people. But we can say emphatically with what I share with you that being a Jew is not a race. We know that being German is not a race, right? Being those are not racial groups. According to the court system and how race is defined, they all would be classified as being part of the white race, according to the institution of race. So Whoopi Goldberg did not say anything bad about the Holocaust. In fact, she made it clear that it was an act against humanity. So again, Whoopi Goldberg, what she's guilty of is being insensitive. And to all my brothers and sisters that are watching, one key thing she said, and I'm not sure if I put the clip here, she said that when she apologized, she said that she see race differently. And all of us that are part of, what is considered the black race, we see race differently because the institution of race was created to bring a divide. It was created solely to make sure that all those that's part of the black race are inferior, are treated inferior. It's a reminder of the conqueror and the enslaved and those that got conquered. To remind us, according to this institution, that there's always going to be a divide. And every government that built its government off of this caste system, you will notice our community is at the lowest end of the totem pole. So I want to make this clear. So the reason why she said that is because most blacks, per se, just using the construct for the sake of conversation and discussion, do not look at race like others, because the institution of race was created by a German by the name of Johann Blumenbach, by a German, or Ashkenaz. Why? Because again, Ashkenaz is the Hebrew word for Germany. So again, when he created that institution, you will not see anything outside of 5 color groups, which the institution of race promotes stereotypes. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. What I'm going to do right now, we're going to start this off by getting you up to speed. We're going to show some clips that we shared earlier with Whoopi Goldberg, but then we have some additional clips we're going to show that ties into the topic, white privilege. So let's start with Whoopi Goldberg. Let's start with watching. Let's just do a refresher of what occurred. Let's go ahead and watch her videos and the whole interaction, and we'll take a look at Hop and Bob, and and then we'll get into it. Here we go.
Two schools are being accused of banning books after one in Washington state pulled To Kill a Mockingbird off their required reading list after complaints from students and parents, including a former black student who said it made her uncomfortable, and a Tennessee school pulled the graphic novel Mouse out of their lessons on the Holocaust because it contained some nudity and some bad language. Personally, I'm shocked because, you know, given the story of Mouse, I'm surprised that that's what made you uncomfortable. The fact that there was some nudity and I mean, it's about the Holocaust, the killing of 6 million people, but that didn't bother you. But the naked.
I'm not sure that they don't use the naked part as a kind of a canard to throw you off from the fact that they don't like history that makes white people look bad.
Well, this is white people doing it to white people.
Yeah.
So and this is, you know, y'all go fight amongst yourselves. This is white people doing it to white people.
Yeah.
So and this is, you know, y'all go fight amongst yourselves. This is white people doing it to white people.
Yeah.
So and this is, you know, y'all go fight amongst yourselves.
Colleges, this all started in colleges and universities and not wanting to make kids uncomfortable. And we talked about it once here on the show with actually Van Jones when he said, if I send my kids to school, I want them to be uncomfortable. I want people to push back on their beliefs because otherwise we're not preparing kids to go out into the real world. We're preparing them for a world that doesn't exist outside of their own house.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it because the Holocaust isn't about race. Let's be truthful about it because the Holocaust isn't about race. Let's be truthful about it because the Holocaust isn't about race. Let's be truthful about it because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
It is. Well, they consider Jews a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after
not, it's
Jews
not about
ideal race.
But these are two
Romans.
white groups of people. But these are two white groups of people. But these are two white groups of people. But these are two white groups of people.
Well, how do we after black
they
people
didn't see them as white.
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. Black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. Black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other.
This is Hoppin' Bob. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me.
Whoopi Goldberg facing growing outrage after declaring the Holocaust was not about race, despite 6 million people who were murdered for being Jewish. Here to react, Fox News contributor and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Good morning, Leo.
Hi, Carly. Thanks for having me.
I was so happy to see you. What's your reaction to the situation?
Well, let me use Whoopi's word. Let's be truthful. She marginalized the death of 6 million Jews. And what makes it insulting is she provides cover for those who are anti-Semitic, those who really try to downplay that the Nazis tried to systemically eliminate every Jew on this planet. And here's the part that's upsetting, Carly. She'll get a pass. She'll get a pass from the Hollywood left because she's a progressive and she's black, and she'll be given a pass. They're trying to get rid of Joe Rogan, but they're going to allow her to maintain this anti-Semitic rhetoric as if nothing happened. Her apology is not enough. The damage has been done.
I'm tired, boss.
He said it's too hot, boss. He's tired.
Too hot. He tired. You tell that lazy jigaboo the state of Mississippi ain't interested in his meteorological assessment.
Listen up, jigaboo. State of Mississippi ain't interested in your meteorological assessments.
You tell him the state of Mississippi is only interested in getting this here ditch cleared by sundown.
State of Mississippi want this here ditch cleared by sundown. You got that, boy?
Got it. Oh. He don't sound like he from around here.
He from New York City, boss. He from New York City, boss. He from New York City, boss.
She was on the Late Show last night. She tried to clarify her remark. Take a listen to what she had to say.
I feel being black, when we talk about race, it's a very different thing to me. So I said that I felt that the Holocaust wasn't about race. People were very angry, and they said, no, we are a race. And I understand. I understand. I felt differently.
So she says that she understands the criticism. You don't think that's an acceptable response, or do you?
Oh, absolutely. Look, she used her race. I feel that I'm black. See, she's using her race as a cover. Let me sit here and say this. Whoopi Goldberg missed, apparently, world history class in high school. Okay, I feel as a black man, as a civil rights attorney, and as a history teacher, that what she said was anti-Semitic, racist, and downplayed that 6 million people were murdered, and their ancestors will never have any type of satisfaction of resolution. It's an attempt to ignore what happened 70 years ago.
All right. Sorry about that, family. Sorry about that, family. I'm steady talking, right, without my volume. For some reason, my mic was muted. So my apologies. Can you guys hear me good? Can you guys, if you guys can hear me good, type 1. All right. If you guys can hear me good, type 1. All right. If you can hear me good, type 1. There we go. All right. That wasn't YouTube or anything like that. That was actually operator error on my part. In the technology world, we will use the phrase, the issue is between the keyboard and the chair. So this go round, it was me. I forgot to unmute myself. But again, what I was simply saying is whenever the playbook, whenever they want to address certain things when it comes to our community, as you see, the playbook is to get someone from our community. You know, like you see that guy, I don't know who he is, Terrell or whatever his name is. I call him Hop and Bobs. So let's go ahead and deal with this today. Let's deal with this tonight. Let's keep it simple, straightforward. Let's revisit something here. All right. So when did the Jewish community become a race? What is a race? Right? What is race? We're going to do a refresher on that, but not going to go too deep into it. I encourage you guys, go back and watch part 1. And then this weekend, I'm going to share the message that I taught for over 3 years in our assembly. The Most High told me to teach the same message over and over again for over 3 years until the people got the message, right? And I'm going to walk you through that. It's called identity theft, all right? And we'll deal with that. All right? So is a Jew or Jewish a race? What is a Jew? All right? I want to share this for those that are watching this for the first time. Again, go back and watch part 1. Also watch the lesson I did on Zionism. But what is a Jew? Now I'm going to define this real quick. All right. We're going to use the law of return to see how the word Jew is defined. Right. This is coming from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Right. And as you see here, in the background, you see the information here, but we're going to go ahead and read a bullet here, but you can go to just look up the law of return, Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also the Jewish state, I think it's called the New Jewish State or something like that, or another group over there. So, but you can go here and you can type in law return 5710-1950, and it will give you the definition. And this is one of those words that I refer to as a word of confusion. And for those that are not familiar with this word Jew and how confusing it is, go back and look at one of the lessons called Words of Confusion, and I give you proper clarity on what the word Jew means. All right. So again, this is coming from the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It says, for the purpose of this law, Jew means a person who was born of a Jewish mother or has become converted to Judaism and who is not a member of another race. Right. So this is the law of return. We're getting into 1948. This is how the word Jew from that point moving forward has been defined. Someone who was born to a Jewish mother, as you see here, or a convert, right? Or a convert, right? Someone who has converted over to Judaism and they do not practice any other religion. That is the definition of a Jew. So anyone can be a Jew as long as you are practicing Judaism, right? According to the definition of being a Jew, you have to be born to a Jewish mother. But that's different when it comes to Israel, right? That's different when you actually read the scriptures, because the lineage, the bloodline, is the father. The children take on the lineage of the father, not the mother. But again, when you see this word Jew, the way it's being defined today is someone that is born of a Jewish mother. And I want you to hold on to that thought, or has become converted to Judaism and who is not a member of another religion. So let's go back to this article. You guys probably remember this from part 1. And again, I encourage you guys, take these sources, vet these sources, and use these sources. The Forward is a Jewish publication that was created, that was founded, I believe, like in the 1880s, right, by a Jewish group, right, to give the news, the current news of the Jewish community. So again, this publication is a Jewish publication. Now, notice what you see here. The question is, can 23andMe tell us if Jews are a race, and is that a good thing? By Ari Feldman, July 30th, 2017. And there's so many nuggets inside this article, so many nuggets, right? Because our community is being ridiculed by many within the church right now, because many of us have used DNA to confirm who we are. But I'm going to highlight some other things within this article here. right? You're going to see one of the talking points that many of these so-called Christian defenders come up with terms of skin doctrine. Say that, hey, though the black Hebrew Israelites, and that's an oxymoron that in itself, because Israel, we already know the color of Israel. We know that Israel was dark melanated people, right? And many would say, hey, Israel come in all colors. Well, we know that our people come in different shades, but guess what? The commonality is dark, melanated. But anyway, let's go ahead and go into this publication. Let's go into this article and let's give clarity. And I'm going to show you just what we see here, right? We're going to see, we can use the term skin doctrine that has been pointed towards and directed towards those that are part of this awakening, that are waking up to who they are. All right, here we go. It says here, can 23andMe tell us if Jews are a race? And is that a good thing? Learning your genetic makeup has never been easier than it is in 2017 for less than the cost of a doctor's visit. Some people are trying to use the service to find out if or to what extent they're Jewish. Now, why is it a problem that many within our community are doing their DNA tests to find out exactly their heritage? Because again, history in this country does not teach us who we are prior to 1619. Doesn't tell us our history prior to those slave ships. So it says here that within the Jewish community, so many are trying to use the service to find out if or to what extent that they are Jewish. So they are going to use, they're using the DNA, right? These DNA testing, 23andMe, to prove whether or not or to what extent that they are Jewish. So why is it a problem when it comes to our community? Why is there a problem in our community when we use the DNA, go to the DNA to prove and confirm who we are? Why do we have these guys? Why do we have so many of these guys running around trying to discredit who we are?
This is Hoppin' Bob. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me.
Why do we have so many of these hopping Bobs spending so much time on their own brothers and sisters, trying to slander, trying to throw all kinds of things at their own brothers and sisters? But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But let's go ahead. Let's see what else this Jewish publication says. It says a phenomenon that worries historians and scientists. It says here, buyers of mail order gene testing kits do get solid information from them. Now, let me say that again. It says here, because many of these hopping Bobs, right, who have a problem with our community using 23andMe, using GEDmatch, using Ancestry and some of the others, it says here, buyers of mail order gene testing kits do get solid information from them. Do get what? Solid information from them. So each one of us have gotten solid information from them. Fact. What's some of the solid information you learned? The solid information that I've learned from multiple DNA tests connects me directly to the ancient people of Israel. So they learned, notice what this says here, they learned whether their ancestors were living let me read that again. They learn where their ancestors were living 9 generations ago. Some have even found living but long lost family members. The danger, expert says, is that in relying on these kids to learn more about their genes, users are perpetuating the notion that Jews are a race. Wait a minute. So they're using the DNA test, right? The Jewish community, many within the Jewish community, as this Jewish publication, this article is pointing out that the Jewish community, many are taking the 23andMe testing and other DNA testing, right, to prove or validate themselves as being a race, to prove that the Jews is a race. And notice what it says. A concept they say, and we're going to touch on they real quick as a refresher, say has no scientific basis. Let me read this again. The danger, expert says, is that in relying on these kids to learn more about their genes, these users, they're referring to the Jewish community, are perpetuating the notion that Jews are a race. So this publication is making it clear that the community, the Jews, are not a race. A concept they say has no scientific basis. So again, users are perpetuating the notion that Jews are a race, a concept they say has no scientific basis. So is this quote true? Well, let's go to the anthropology newsletter, The Origin of the Idea of Race by R.G. Smedley, right? November 1997. This is from the PBS website, and the link is below. Now, notice what she says here. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. The race was a recent invention. So if it is an invention, that means someone has the patent on it, right? So contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention and that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. Do I need to read that again? Because so many people are struggling even within our community that think that race is an ethnic group, fighting more for this color descriptor, this color group that was created, that's an invention, than trying to find out who they really are. So let me read it again. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. What? Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention, that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. What? This is not new to anthropologists. What? That is the they that the article, the forward, is referring to. It's the anthropologists know that there's no scientific equation that was used, no biological studies to come up with these color descriptors. So again, one more time, for those that don't want to really grab hold of this, those that are holding on to, oh, we the black. No, you can run with that. I'm proud of my skin complexion, but I'm not standing firm on a color descriptor, right? So let me read it one more time. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention and that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. So we have to teach, or should I say toss, this terrible teaching that so many of our brothers and sisters are grabbing hold of, want to gravitate, really strongly hold on to this construct, but don't have a care of really understanding who they are. We're in the month that the least number of days in this month, Black History Month, and a bulk of the month is going to be taken dealing with the Olympics, and the other, of course, with the things that's going on in Ukraine, right? So, and you will not hear them talk about this. You'll hear the typical things about Martin Luther King. You hear the typical things about Frederick Douglass. You'll hear the typical things about Phyllis Wheatley. You'll hear those typical things. You'll hear about inventors like, for a scientist, what's his name now? George Washington Carver. You'll hear about him. You'll hear about those guys, but you will not hear about this stuff. So let's toss them out. Let's just toss them out. Let's toss this nonsense out right now. Let's give them a 3-piece, and we're going to toss them out. We're going to give them their order to go. Here's the 3-piece. And let's toss out guys like the Hoppin' Bobs, like that Terrell guy. Let's toss them out. Let's give them this order to go. All right. So again, it tells us that this is not new to anthropologists. All right. So again, race, let me say it one more time, was a recent invention, and that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. So again, you see it on your screen. Race was a recent invention, and that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. So let's go back to this article. It says, the idea of race has historically slotted humans into a handful of categories: Asian, Africa, white, etc. But research has shown that there can be a much genetic difference within these races as between them. So this is where you start getting into what is called genetic differences. That's a whole nother discussion, and I can really teach in depth on that. And I'm going to start putting some of these teachings over to the Patreon, the in-depth ones. All right, so I won't have to worry about some of the censorship on YouTube. But nevertheless, going back into this, it says, and experts say the notion that one skin tone and facial features alone can predict social behavior is plain wrong. It is really important for all of us to resist the attempt to revive this discredited notion that race is a biological category rather than a political and social category. So they're making it clear in this Jewish publication that race is not based off of any biological studies, no scientific equations, but rather it's a construct for political and social purposes, says Marcy Darnowski, right? Director of Center of Genetics in Society. All right. But anyway, that's all it is. That's all this institution is. And in this article, these are just some screenshots, right? We see here Jonathan Paul making it clear that as far as his DNA, he says, mine came back and basically told me I am extremely white. Why? Because he saw what many are seeing is the European portion of his DNA. And he put here, mine is a bit of Ashkenazi Jewish heritage, which is kind of dope because of Gal Gadot. And the reason why he makes reference of her in this article is because she has a tone to her skin. So that's why he's making a reference to her. All right. So here's Abigail Jaffe. I am 98% Ashkenazi, says 23andMe, and 99.7% European. That's white. So she's saying her DNA test comes back and say that she is 99.7% European. And out of her overall test, it makes it clear that she is 98% Ashkenazi. So out of that 99%, she's 98% Ashkenazi. And Ashkenaz means German. And then you have someone responding to her here. It says, I am Ashkenazi Jew, and I'm most definitely not a person of color. So what they're saying is, I am definitely not, as we will use the constructs of the institution of race, saying, I am definitely not black. That's what this person is saying, making it clear that they are what? White or Caucasian. So resist the attempt to revive this discredited notion that race is a biological category rather than a political and social category. All right, so let's go back to this article. This is another thing I want to highlight. It says Iberian and Greek population. Ashkenazic Jews often find themselves in the peculiar situation of being 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. So what it's saying is their overall DNA results coming back as being 99% European. And out of their percent their DNA percentage, they're showing that they are 90% Ashkenazi Jewish. So this means that Ashkenazi, and I'm going to show you with this article, that their origins are not what many would refer to the Middle East or Northeast Africa, that their origins is Europe. So again, Iberian and Greek populations, Ashkenazic Jews often find themselves in the peculiar situation of being 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. Now, notice what they say about the Sephardic Jews. Right? Notice what they say about the Sephardic Jews. Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African and less than 10% Ashkenazic. In other words, what they're saying is the Sephardic Jews, their DNA results is completely the opposite. It's saying out of their overall DNA results, it says that 10% will come back Ashkenazic, less than 10%. That's what it's saying. But no more than 10%. 10% or less, guess what? Less than 10% Ashkenazic. In other words, saying their overall results is going to point them to the Middle East, North Africa. As it says here, Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African. Why? Because the Middle East is originally called North Africa. Newsflash. But anyway, and less than 10% Ashkenazic. So it goes from one extreme to the other with the Ashkenazi Jewish community, 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. So this is saying that they are European. So this is recognizing that Ashkenazi Jews are European. You can't get away. This is a Jewish publication. Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African and less than 10% Ashkenazic. Stuart Schaufman, a traveler writer and blogger who writes under the name, not going to repeat the name, said he brought a kid from 23andMe because even though his family insists they're exclusively Jewish, he thought there was a possibility that he had some non-Jewish ancestry. It goes on to say, I was curious because you never know, says Schaufman. Family stories are just stories. So he wanted to confirm what he believed. He wanted to confirm too to see if his family was right, that they had no other groups inside their bloodline. So it says here, Schaufman learned that he is what? 99.8% Ashkenazi Jewish. Said the test hasn't made much of a difference on the sense of his Jewish identity. Why? Because it says here, Judaism really informed who I am and my values and my worldview, Schaufman says. 23andMe hasn't made me more or less Jewy at all. I'm just Jewy. However, Schroffman added, he's white Jewy. He says he's Jewy, excuse me, and white, right? Let me say that again. He says that Judaism, the religion of Judaism, he's saying this religion, and remember, Judaism, either you're going to be a Jew by blood, by way of a Jewish mother, or by what? Practicing Judaism. He's saying Judaism, a religious belief system, informed him of who he really is. Now, let's see if we have these hop and bobs. Let's see if they argue this, because they're saying that it's their religion, their Judaism, this belief system taught them who they are. While we have brothers and sisters within our community who may not have done their DNA, are using the holy text as well as reputable sources to prove who we are, that we are connected to the ancient people of the book, right? But let me go right back to highlight this right here. Let me go back, right? I want you guys to make sure again, this article is making it clear that the majority of the Sephardic Jews, right, their DNA is going to point them to the Middle East and North Africa. In other words, the Northeast Africa. It's going to point them there. It's going, and 10%, less than 10% of their DNA is going to have any type of Ashkenazic, groups within it. Less than 10% of the Ashkenazic group. All right. So let's go back here. So Schroffman, who learned that he is 99.8% Ashkenazi Jewish, said the test hasn't made much of a difference on the sense of his Jewish identity. 99.8% Ashkenazi. That means that he is what? Basically, almost 100% European. And his origins does not go to the Middle East, as this article is laying it out. Judaism really informed me of who I am and my values and my worldviews, Schroffman said. 23andMe hasn't made me more or less Jewy at all. I'm just Jewy. However, Schroffman added, he's Jewy white. Excuse me, he's Jewy and white. While other Jews, and notice what he says, while other Jews, Sephardic Jews, Ethiopian Jews, can't claim this distinction. He's making it clear that the Sephardic Jews, the Ethiopian Jews, they cannot claim that distinction. Can't claim this distinction. Cannot claim this distinction, right, of being white, being 99.8% Ashkenazi Jew. Says the Sephardic Jews, the Ethiopian Jews can't claim that distinction. He's an ethnic minority, but a white one nonetheless. And notice what he says. He says, I get all the benefits of white privilege. He acknowledged this. So he's making it clear that he's an Ashkenazi Jew, right? That he is what? Jewish, that he's a Jew, that he is what? White, he's European, but he says that he gets the benefits of what? White privilege. He gets the benefits of white privilege. That's exactly what he's saying. He gets the benefit of white privilege. And before I go a little further, let me share one more thing. I think I may have forgotten to put this in here, but let me go ahead and put this reminder in here, just so that way you guys understand where I'm going at with this, right? Because I'm going to show you the benefits of white privilege. All right, let me go back here. Let me do something real quick to this slide, because I forgot to, I accidentally deleted this here. So let me add this here. Let me share with you some key information about Whoopi Goldberg, and then we're going to deal with white privilege. Give you an example of white privilege real quick. All right, here we go. All right. Now, His key quote here, this is what he says again. I get all the benefits of white privilege, he acknowledged. So the difference between, as I pointed out with this article, makes it clear that the Ashkenazi Jewish community are European, right? For the most part, their DNA will come back 99 or 98% European, 90% on the average Ashkenazi, but 99%, 98 to 99% European. And this person, like many within that particular Jewish community, said this is what happens. Get all the benefits of white privilege, he acknowledged. So let me give you an example of white privilege. First, let's start with Whoopi Goldberg. Unknown fact about Whoopi, right? The sources here, Orlando Sentinel, Whoopi Goldberg offered no apologies, 1994. So she was accused of a number of things. And notice what she says, and I'm going to bring the overall quote up. She says, what else can they say? Wonders Whoopi Goldberg in 1994. I'm an anti-Semite. I'm a bigot. I'm a disgrace to my race. I'm a disgrace to women. I'm a homewrecker. I've slept with everyone in Hollywood. It's no fun being an outspoken African-American Jewish female superstar. Wait a minute. She's making it clear that she's Jewish. And it's not Jewish based upon practicing Judaism. Here in 1994, she says, it's no fun being an outspoken African-American Jewish female superstar. And she's been accused of being anti-Semitic, being a bigot, being a disgrace to her race, being a disgrace to women, being a homewrecker, and sleeping with everyone in Hollywood. And she said it's no fun being outspoken. African-American Jewish female superstar. Right? But notice what it says here. Whoopi Goldberg offers no apologies. She's been accused of anti-Semitism for responding to requests for celebrity recipes with her tongue-in-cheek Jewish American princess fried chicken recipe. I am Jewish. I am a Jewish American princess. That's probably what bothers most people. It's not my problem. People are uncomfortable with the fact that I am Jewish. Her publicist explains that Goldberg is a name taken from her mother's side of the family. So it's saying on her mother's side of the family, right, is the bloodline of being Jewish. That's why they made this point. Not saying that she's practicing Judaism, because it says though she attended Catholic school. So it says mother's side of the family, and that the actress embraces the Jewish faith. So it's saying, according to the law of return, that those that are born to a Jewish mother, right, the bloodline is on the mother's side, and this is on her mother's side, right? Guess what? It says mother side of the family, and that the actress embraces the Jewish faith. So she's saying that on her mother's side of the family, you see the Jewish being there, but also it says now at this point in time, she was practicing Judaism. So she had both of those covered. Though she attended Catholic school, right? So she embraces the Jewish faith, even though she came up in a Catholic school. And so she began to use Goldberg as her stage name. So it says, even if I wasn't Jewish, she says, I mean, come on, right? It's like being called a lawyer. So Goldberg is a Jewish name. Here's the source here. Just giving a quick brief here. Jewish, Ashkenazic. Gold plus Berg, in other words, mountain hill. That's what the name means. But it's an Ashkenazic name. All right. So now that we got that out the way, why did I decide to do this lesson? Why did I decide to do this lesson titled White Privilege? Well, I am going to introduce you guys to another person that is a Jew, right? That is part of the Jewish community. And let's take a look at how some of the actions that this person has done, how he benefited from white privilege. Right? So let's go to this next person. And you guys probably already know the chit chatter that's going around about Howard Stern. But this is coming from the New York Times, right? 2019. Howard Stern says he has changed. How much, David Marquise? All right. It was written by David Marquise, but it's basically asking how much did he change? May 9th, 2019. Let's see what it says. I am also pissed or ticked off. I don't like to use that term. Ticked off about the amount of anti-Semitism in the world right now. I've seen a ton of explicit. I've dealt with it my whole life. It makes me sick when these explicits, you know, he's cursing here. So explicit, excuse me. But nevertheless, he's cursing here, right? Are like all Jews are rich, and they rule the world. So he's making it clear, if you caught on to it, that he's saying that he's Jewish. He's saying that no one let me in on that. So what he's doing is he's making it clear that he didn't grow up rich, right? But he's a Jew. All right. He says, I'm ticked off about the amount of anti-Semitism in the world right now. I've seen a ton of that. All right. So let's go back to this article. This is what he goes on to say. As far as raising the kids, I would not have really given them any religion. My ex-wife believed that they should have, that they should have it. And my kids ended up loving it. They got comfort from it. Being Jewish for me was always wonderful. Well, it was a double-edged sword. He said being Jewish was always wonderful, right? Well, it was a double-edged sword. I had experienced a lot of anti-Semitism, but I like being with other Jews. And he just gives some additional information. And I go to Jewish summer camp. I never was super religious, but I understood the importance of Israel and of Jews needing a homeland because of persecution. So I am very pro-Israel on the air, right? So I'm going to give you an example here, family. And excuse me for, butchering a couple of words here. My apologies here. My flow is not here tonight. All right. So, but anyway, let me show you the privilege of white privilege. So I'm going to share with you Whoopi Goldberg's acts. Then I'm going to share Howard Stern's acts. And we're going to see the difference between white privilege, right? Being a person, a melanated person, being connected to Israel versus a Caucasian, a white person whose connection is primarily to Europe. But let's see the benefits, just like we saw in this article. Let's see the benefits. All right. Let's start again with Whoopi, and then we'll share Howard Stern. Matter of fact, I'm just going to play Howard Stern's. I'm going to play Howard Stern's, and then you guys will see the difference. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me get to it.
Our next pair of judges couldn't be with us in the studio tonight. They're celebrating the new year from a secret location. Here they are, Hollywood's oddest couple, Ted Danson and Whoopi Goldberg, via satellite transmission.
How are you doing there, Mrs. Robin Quibbles? You know, Robin, Whoopi is a whole lot prettier after you drunk a couple of bottles of this here malt liquor.
Drink on, honey.
With every sip, you get better and better, baby. Your snatch smell like a kingfish.
Oh, I didn't write that.
Ted, I must say that I can't believe you're still in blackface after the Friars Roast controversy.
Oh, hush up. I hate blackface. I just can't get this shit off. Besides, Whoopi done wrote everything I'm gonna say here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right, you smelly nigger?
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelly nigger. I got some more jokes for your New Year's Eve party there.
You're not tired of this.
And don't be racially offended, because Whoopi done wrote them for me, okay? Here we go.
Go ahead.
Black hole.
Black hole.
You're gonna love this. Hey, look at that. What do I loves most about the Whoopi?
Oh,
yeah.
That sure has great timing.
Hey, Robin, what does you call a black rocket scientist?
I don't know,
A
Ted.
nigger. Whoopi wrote it, Whoopi wrote it. Hey, did you happen to notice this?
No, what
this
is that?
This my mother, Mama Dancing. Why, she done working blackface, too.
She must be very proud.
Yeah.
Now I know you really love me, Ted. You the man.
I tell you, you the man. What done happened to Sherman's career? It's really over the end. I want you to give us a kiss, you smelly coghead coon. I love you.
May I say something here?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can say whatever you want, you smelly nigga. Whoopi wrote that.
That's it, Ted. You didn't know I was going to say that. Whoopi had no chance to write it. I don't accept that kind of language. You can call her whatever you want, but you don't talk to me that way or I'll leave.
Well, don't let the door hit you on your big black ass, mama, on the way out of here. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. Now, Whoopi, you is a filthy nigger.
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelly nigger, so what's the difference?
Look, you two, don't you think you're going to ruin your career this way?
No. What's wrong with you? This here routine is showing people that we is not afraid to confront our racial stereotype.
Yeah, family. Some of you guys may be asking the question, is that George Jefferson? You know, Sherman Hensley? Yes, that's him. You know, many of you guys remember George Jefferson. You know, I was young enough to be able to see some of the reruns of George Jefferson. George Jefferson on camera stood firm. He was a strong image of a black man. And they kind of had him as, you know, the black version, so to speak, almost like Archie Bunker. Right? That is Sherman Hensley. With Howard Stern. I want to say peace and blessings to my brother Dante. I want to say peace and blessings to my brother Dante. Appreciate you jumping in. And my brother Dante, what I'm doing is if you, and I'll drop the link if you want to jump in. If you have time to jump in, feel free. If you want to share your comments here, because we're dealing with white privilege, and I'm just going over an article on and dealing with Howard Stern, right? With the privilege of being a white Jew, right, versus being a dark melanated Israelite. And he, you know, I read an article saying the benefits of being an Ashkenazi Jew because of getting the white privileges. So if you want, feel free to jump in, Dante. I'll put the link there in the comment section. All right. So, all right, I got you, Dante. So just want to give you an invitation. All right. So that's what Howard Stern. But you know what? I'm going to show a little bit of it. Now, I know it's going to make you guys get upset because it made me upset when I watched the whole clip. Right? Look at exactly how they reduced the image of Sherman Hensley. I was disappointed because he allowed this to happen. Sherman Hensley allowed this to happen. He allowed himself to go on this show and be put in this position to be on the receiving end of this foolishness. Now, this is the last part of that. Now, I want to say that it's going to make you upset because it made me upset watching it. But here we go.
Looky here. We as a nation of racists, and we must break through that barrier that we done constructed for ourselves. Can't you see that? Can't you see that, you little rib breath mama? What did it, baby?
Oh, Ted, this whole thing is backfired.
Oh, it's Robin's fault.
I'm afraid the whole world is going to turn against us.
Oh, baby, this here thing got you all upset because Missy Robin just hounding you. And you know I love you, and I love all people except the chinks.
Oh, God.
Now, you come over here. We're going to have a good New Year's. I'm going to take my fingers and stick them in that barbed wire you call pubic hair.
Oh,
I love you.
I love you too, you bald, thick-skulled cracker honky.
And I love you, you fat-lipped little baboon.
Oh, and I love you, you blue-eyed Frankenstein.
Honey, let me see your... It's so damn scary.
Oh,
Come on, spread your legs. I'm going to pull down my pants. Come on, spread them wider. Spread them wider, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Your face is scary. I'll tell you that, boy.
You see this foolishness? You see this foolishness? You see this foolishness? This is what is called white privilege. Whoopi Goldberg said nothing wrong. Again, you can call her insensitive, but she said nothing wrong. I want to say peace and blessings to Dr. Sean. And I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, if you have not heard of this brother right here, he support his channel. I mean, put out nothing but the truth. I appreciate you, doctor, for tuning in. And you know, I'll drop the link in again for those that, you know, for doctor, if you want to come on. Matter of fact, I see Jay High Style, Sister E, and a few others. If you want to jump on, feel free to jump on. I'll open up the lines here, but I wanted to show you guys the difference between the two. So we got Howard Stern. Basically what we see, if you want to call it buck breaking, we see him with Sherman Hemsley. And yes, Sherman Hemsley came out the closet. He came out the closet not too, I guess not too far before his death or whatever. He came out the closet about his sexuality. But we see how on screen, the image of what we know of George Jefferson. So basically, he's being what? On screen, we see the humiliation of that image. But he, Howard Stern, gets the benefits of what? White privilege. White privilege. While Whoopi, on the other hand, she got, everyone coming at her, different groups coming at her. Got hopping bobs coming at her. This is one of the hopping bobs that came at her. Here we go.
Whoopi Goldberg facing growing outrage after declaring the Holocaust was not about race, despite 6 million people who were murdered for being Jewish. Here to react, Fox News contributor and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Good morning, Leo.
Hi, Carly. Thanks for having me.
I was so happy to see you. What's your reaction to the situation?
Well, let me use Whoopi's word. Let's be truthful. She marginalized the death of 6 million Jews. And what makes it insulting is she provides cover for those who are anti-Semitic, those who really try to downplay that the Nazis tried to systemically eliminate every Jew on this planet. And here's the part that's upsetting, Carly. She'll get a pass. She'll get a pass from the Hollywood left because she's a progressive and she's black, and she'll be given a pass. They're trying to get rid of Joe Rogan, but they're going to allow her to maintain this anti-Semitic rhetoric as if nothing happened. Her apology is not enough. The damage has been done.
This is Hoppin' Bob. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. You run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me.
There you have it, family. You see the difference, right? So I want to revisit this again for those that are just jumping in. The difference between the Ashkenazi Jewish community and the Sephardic Jewish community. We see it right here. This is a Jewish publication by The Forward. They make it clear the difference between the Sephardic Jews and the Ashkenazi Jewish, right? Notice what it says here again. And words have meaning, family. You see Ashkenazi Jewish and you see Sephardic Jews. So it says here 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. Let me read that again. It says Ashkenazi Jews often find themselves in the peculiar situation of being 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and overall 90% European. But it says in the flip side, the Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African and less than 10% Ashkenazic. So you see that the Sephardic Jews, according to this Jewish publication, saying that it says Sephardic Jews may be told that they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African and less than 10% Ashkenazic, less than 10% European. How many of you guys have done your DNA and you discovered that your DNA goes all the way back to ancient Israel? I'm going to leave this on the screen for a second for this to sink in with you guys. It's for this to sink in for you guys. This is why we have to get better. We have to mature even in the material that we're using. See, family, I don't go around using the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. I don't go around using, and I'm not minimizing those that use that. I don't use some of the other books that many use. I call it the Israelite Combat Bag, starter kit. I don't use that from Babylon to Timbuktu, even though that's a great book. I don't use that. I'm going into the sources that literally drops the mic, makes it hard for anyone to respond, especially those from within that community that may try to come to me or come at me and tell me I'm not who I am. I'll pull up this article. I got plenty of the sources, but I'll pull up this article to show again 90% of Ashkenazi Jews, right? 90%, right? 90% Ashkenazi Jews often find themselves in the peculiar situation of being 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. So making it clear that most that are doing their DNA within the Ashkenazi Jewish community are 99% Europeans. And again, Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North Africa and less than 10% Ashkenazic. So this is giving you an understanding the difference between the Ashkenazi Jewish community and the Sephardic Jewish community. Last point I'm going to make here. I want to show this again. Right? And what's interesting is this guy right here, notice what he says here. Right? Notice what he says here. Schaufman, who learned, this is someone that they interviewed here, who learned that he is 99.8% Ashkenazic Jewish. Still part of that, 98, 99, basically almost 100% European. Still part of that 98, 99% European. So this means that he's almost 100% European. Schaufman, who learned that he's 99.8% Ashkenazi Jewish, said the test hasn't made much of a difference. He's saying he don't care about the test because guess what? On his identity as being Jewish, as he says here, on his sense of Jewish identity, Judaism really informed who I am. He's saying that he don't care what the DNA say, but guess what? It's the Judaism, right? Judaism is a religious system. Remember, the law of return either defines that you can either be a Jew by way of the mother or by way of practicing Judaism. In other words, converting. So Judaism really informed who I am. and my values and my worldview. Sharfman says 23andMe hasn't made me more or less Jewy at all. I am just Jewy. However, Sharfman added, he's Jewy and white. He's making it clear that he is Jewy, or he's a Jew and white. So again, why is it a problem that many of our brothers and sisters are reading the holy text and coming to the understanding that they are Israelites? What's the problem with that, Christian church? What's the problem with that, defenders of Christianity? What's the problem with that? Let's see if you do, or you guys do videos on this here, because this article is dealing with skin doctrine, so to speak, as they would use towards our community. But he didn't stop here. Notice what he says here, and we'll wrap this up. He says Sephardic Jews, Ethiopian Jews can't claim that distinction. What is the distinction of being what? White. He says he's Jewy and white, while other Jews, Sephardic Jews, Ethiopian Jews, can't claim that distinction. He is he's an ethnic minority, but a white one nonetheless. I get all the benefits of white privilege, he acknowledged. It's right in front of us, family, the breadcrumbs. Let me show you something else here. Let me show you another group here, still within the Ashkenazi Jewish community, but let me show you a group of anchormen over in Israel in blackface. But see, again, there's a benefit that comes with white privilege.
נחשף ביערות בורקינה פאסו שבט קניבלים נטו נטו. שלום למנהיג השבט קזבובו.
שלום עליכם. אברהם יצחק יעקב, יודע עברית, שולחן, חשבונית, קובי פרץ, מוטלס, יבוטאו.
מר קזבובו, כולנו כאן בישראל מופתעים ונרגשים נוכח האפשרות שתעלו ארצה.
קזבובו שמח, 2000 שנות גלות נגמר, רואים אור בקצה של מנהרה.
אתם בטוחים שאתם יהודים?
התחלנו על חנן. אם הוא שחור הוא לא יהודי?
לא בגלל שהוא שחור, הוא...
מה הוא מה?
קניבל.
ומי אתה שתגיד לו מה לאכול, אם הוא קניבל, הוא לא יהודי?
אולי תבוא, תעשה אצלנו שבת?
זה לא שיש לי משהו אישי נגדכם, אבל הפלשמורה למשל תקועים.
Let me show you one more video of another video over in Israel using the word kushi as the N-word.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית. אני גאה בלהיות גזענית. אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני גאה.
אל תפקושי לנסוע! אל תנסוע עם פושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! אל תנסוע עם פושי! לכי! לא מתביישת!
So family, that's the benefits of white privilege when we start dealing with the institution of race. And I see a question here. So you're saying the real Jews are Europeans? That's not what I said. I'll encourage you, Joseph Israel, to go back over this video. The original Israelites are from what many would call, as we call today, Africa, Afar or Akibulan, Northeast Africa. I'm not saying that the original Israelites are Europeans. That's not what I'm saying. All right. What I am breaking down that there's a difference when we use the word Jew as defined by the law of return, that a Jew, according to their definition, is someone that's born to a Jewish mother or practicing Judaism. So I use that as an example that Whoopi Goldberg made it clear that she's a Jew from her mother's side. Howard Stern makes it clear that he's a Jew. But Whoopi got ridiculed for her comments that was not literally, it was not from a hateful place. You could say she was insensitive, but for what? Calling it what it is. She said that the Holocaust was not based upon race. Because again, looking at both groups, right, they would be considered to be what? The Caucasian race, the white race. So what we would call in our community, like many would say, you will hear the term black on black crime. You will hear when it comes to slavery, many from the white community per se, they would say, hey, you know what? Blacks sold blacks into slave. There was blacks on blacks that did all these different things. And matter of fact, I encourage you guys, go to Doctor's YouTube channel, right? He dropped some nuggets today. One of the nuggets I completely forgot about was King, what's his name? Always mess up his name, Leopold or whatever, about killing over 10 million people, 10 million Africans, 10 million Negroes in the Congos, 10 million. But we're not talking about that. I encourage you guys to go over to his channel. And I'm gonna see if I can get the link real quick. But go over to his channel. Let me pull it up here, and I'm going to drop his channel inside the chat. But I encourage you guys to go to the Doctor's channel. He got some great content there. Let me pull it up here, and I'm getting ready to wrap it up here, family. I don't want to be too much longer because I didn't anticipate on being here this long. But let me pull up the Doctor's channel here so that way I can post it in the link. All right. So I'm going to copy it here. And I said to him a few times, he may be related to me because I see his last name is Carr. It's spelled with C-A-R-R, even though we all are related here. But yeah, that's my family name, Carr. So let me drop his link here. He did a great, just had a great discussion on this earlier. But anyway, family, yeah, Leopold, that's his name. I always mess his name up, right? King Leopold killed 10 million people, 10 million of our brothers and sisters in the Congos, 10 million. We got more that we can give, more other atrocities that happen. But 10 million people, 10 million people that look just like you and I. But we don't hear anyone talking about that, right? Even when this happened with the Howard Stern, right now there's a fight to get him removed, but he already made his money. He's not pressed for anything. My brother Moxie did a great breakdown on it, and I also encourage you guys to check out my brother Moxie Approved. Did a great commentary on Howard Stern and some of the other comedians. He's in that area of entertainment, and he's really doing a great job with exposing a lot of things that goes on in that in that community, and some of the things that are going on among the comedians. So again, family, not trying to take up too much of your time. I encourage you guys to do your history. Go back over, watch this presentation. I encourage you guys to read the sources here, read the sources that I share with you. But I just share with you the example of white privilege, even among what is called the Jewish community. They're still white privileged, as we highlighted in this source here. So I want to encourage you guys, as we're getting closer and closer to the Shabbat, get your rest. As Moses said under the instructions of the Most High, as he was telling Israel, he told them, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you don't ever have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what? China. All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese. China. Russian. Russia. Italian. Italy. German. Germany. Swedish. Sweden. Korean. Korea. Egyptian. Egypt. Nigerian. Nigeria. Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered? Because they went west.
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.